You ever been mistaken for a nobody? I mean the kind of nobody people don't even bother to look in the eye before tossing your ID into a storm drain like it's yesterday's trash. That's what happened the day I was up fixing Rosa Martinez's roof, just an old man with dusty boots and sawdust on his hands when Vivian Blackstone Sterling, queen of the HOA, strutted up and decided I didn't belong. No hello, no who are you, just snatched my license and flicked it into the gutter like I was contaminating her property line. And yeah, I just stood there. Didn't say a word. Not because I couldn't, but because I knew something she didn't. I wasn't just some guy with a hammer. I was the man holding the paperwork that could crush her $7 billion empire in a single signature. Let me back up a sec. That morning, I was sipping coffee like any retired guy on a Saturday when Rosa knocked. Her youngest had a leak dripping onto her bed, and Rosa, working 2 jobs since her husband died, didn't have the budget for a contractor. She came to me because I'd fixed the Johnson's fence and helped Mrs. Chun with her garage door. I didn't even hesitate, grabbed my tools and followed her across the street. Fixing things comes me. Always has. After I lost my wife, Margaret, to cancer, I stopped running companies and started fixing whatever I could touch: leaky faucets, broken gates, anything that helped keep me out of my own head. Anyway, I'm halfway through patching the roof when I hear that sharp click of expensive heels on concrete. Vivian, with her manicured smile and clipboard, looking like she just walked off a country club brochure. "Excuse me," she calls up, eyes scanning me like I'm an infestation. "Do you have a license for roofing work?" I climbed down, wiped my hands on my shirt, told her calmly I was just helping a neighbor. But she wasn't looking for a conversation, she was looking for dominance. She asked if I was bonded, insured, certified, all while smirking, as if she already knew the answer. When I pulled out my ID, just to show her who I was, she looked at it, then tossed it straight down the drain. "People like you lower property values," she said, turning her back like it was a mic drop. "Thing is, I've seen this before. Years ago, when Margaret was dying, we had a different HOA president. Same smile. Same obsession with uniform flower beds. She fined Margaret for growing sunflowers in our yard, said they broke landscaping code. Margaret had planted them hoping they'd help with her nausea during chemo. They were her last act of hope. And that woman ripped it out with a citation. I promised myself that day, I wouldn't let that kind of cruelty go unanswered ever again. So when Vivian tossed my ID, something in me snapped back awake. She had no clue who she was messing with. I used to run Meridian Capital Holdings, that Meridian, and while I'd stepped away from the board years ago, I still held controlling interest. Guess which company's funding Vivian's Lakewood expansion project? Yep. So I made one phone call. Marcus Chun, one of the sharpest real estate attorneys in the state, and a kid I'd once given a scholarship to back in his law school days. Told him to dig into Sterling Corporation. Quietly. And what he found? Gold. Turns out Sterling Corp wasn't just desperate, they were on financial life support. The Lakewood project was their last shot at staying afloat. One scandal, one breach of public trust, and they'd lose everything. And buried deep in the contract, a morality clause. Any behavior that damaged the project's image, boom, Meridian could pull out. That's when things got interesting. Rosa called again, nervous. Apparently, when Vivian tossed my ID, Rosa had accidentally triggered the emergency call button in her pocket. 911 picked up everything. The dispatcher offered to log it as a harassment report. Rosa was scared Vivian had already threatened to fine her for things like visible hoses and mailbox angles. I told Rosa, "You didn't cause trouble. You recorded proof of it." Within hours, Marcus and I had a stack of reports showing how Vivian's HOA targeted families of color, single moms, elderly folks, all fined for things white homeowners were never cited for. $200 for a white family's faded paint, $1,200 for a Latino family's garden decorations. The pattern wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. That night, I called a community meeting. Rosa helped rally the neighbors. We met at the community hall. Folks I'd only waved to for years now showed up with clipboards, stories, anger, and hope. Harold Johnson, a veteran in his 80s, stood up. Said he fought in Vietnam so people wouldn't live in fear, and now he couldn't let his grandkid ride a bike in the driveway without risking a citation. One by one, people spoke. The Potel family fined for the Wally lights. The Williamses fined for birthday guests. Maria Rodriguez fined for speaking Spanish too loudly in her own backyard. By the end of the meeting, we had 42 signatures, just enough to call a vote of no confidence in the HOA president. But Mrs. Chun. She stood up and said, "Give me 24 hours. I'll get you 60. And she did. We didn't just want Vivian out, we wanted change. Rosa proposed scrapping the HOA entirely, replacing it with a community cooperative. Shared maintenance, shared decision-making, shared dignity. And people loved it. Even some of the Lakefront folks started to realize this system didn't serve them either. But here's the twist that knocked the wind out of me. I got a call from a memory care facility. They said I was listed as emergency contact for a Theodore Sterling, Vivian's father. Turns out, he's in late-stage Alzheimer's. And Vivian, she wasn't just pushing this project for the money. She was trying to keep her father in a facility that cost more per month than most folks here make in a year. She showed up on my doorstep the next day, not with a lawyer, not with threats, but shaking, holding a manila folder with my old bio printed out. "I know who you are," she said. "I know you can ruin me." She didn't beg. But she didn't fight either. Said if the project failed, her dad would end up in some warehouse of forgotten people. And I could see it, the desperation that had made her cruel. Didn't excuse what she did. But it made her human. I told her I wouldn't pull his care. That I'd cover it myself. Not for her but for him. Because that's what Margaret would have done. "But there's a condition," I said. "You step down. You apologize. And you learn what it means to be part of this community, not queen of it." She agreed. The vote passed. Rosa became president. The HOA was dismantled. And now, we've got sunflowers in front yards. We've got kids riding bikes again. We've got barbecues and block parties and people looking each other in the eye. Vivian. She stayed. She runs a welcome program now for new residents, helps them feel like they belong. She's still learning. We all are. Funny thing is, I came here looking for peace. What I found was purpose. So now I'm asking you, if someone tried to erase your name, your place, your legacy, would you walk away? Or would you stand your ground, even if your hands were covered in sawdust? Drop your thoughts below. I wanna hear your story. Because sometimes justice doesn't knock. Sometimes it shows up in a toolbox.